Bora Boy, this is the little holiday. Good morning to you all. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. This is Idin Kai Fa Temple. We pray that everyone's doing well. Thank you all for tapping in with us. We're about to get it.
Aboru boye gbogbo awo aboru boye ẹ̀yin babaláwo èèyàn ìbọrù boye.
Good morning to everyone. All right. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. So we're going to begin with morning prayers today. All right. Mojuba Olorun, Mojuba Leda. Mojuba Olorun Mare. Mojuba Bobo Rumale, Mojuba Bobe Male, Mojuba Boy Tembele Soloro Mare. Mojuba Miss Mother Dear Lucille Danes Murray, Mojuba Darsall, Mojuba Basement Senior, Mojuba Alpha Daniels, Mojuba Clifford Daniels Watkins, Mojuba Dahlia, Mojuba Zion, Mojuba Naga, Mojuba Clifford Holmes, Mojuba Clifford Watkins, Mojuba and Jenny Dunn, Mojuba and Katie Bradley, Mojuba Oscar Bradley, Mojuba James O'Ricks, Mojuba Benino Chino, One Vilmo, No Block, Dennis Agustin Vilmo, Mojuba Boy, As you obey, he who hears people's pleas and set the pleas, he who hears people's pleas and proves pleas. He who talks to people and ensure that the talk is completely absorbed. He who hears people's pleas and sets the pleas, name V5. He who hears people's pleas and proves pleas, name Shodar. He who talks to people and ensures that the talk is completely absorbed is the name of Orishanla. Orishanla, you the person amongst human beings. Person amongst one cannot fail to wrestling. The striped frog's one is rainfall. The bullfrog's one is downpour. It is whatever that can read you poem. To you tells earth, earth accepts. Whatever the big rat tells earth, earth accepts. Or what I tell you, if I please accept them and prove them. O Turete, to show gratitude upon gratitude, the hour of gratitude, to display benevolence upon benevolence is the hour of all benevolence. Whoever does not show gratitude for yes says benevolence, such a person I receive to security. These were the declarations of V5 to the 401 in Rumaland when going to marry Opwe, the daughter of Ishbuji. These were also declarations V5 to Rumaland when going to marry Opwe, daughter of Ishbuji. I'm grateful I received my gratuity. I'm grateful for yesterday's favor. I still receive today's gratuity. O Turete, we are very grateful. Share. Awa dupe, awa bore, awa dupe o, awa bore, adupe ana o, awu bore to nebo, Olodumare, awa dupe, awa bore. Awa dupe o, awa bure. Adupe ana o, awa bure tunem ori eni. Awa dupe, awa bure. Awa dupe o, awa bure. Adupe ana o, awa bure tunem irumole. Awa dupe, awa bure, awa dupe, awa bure, adupe, ana awa bure tunebo, legun lorisha. Olodumare and the divinities, we thank you for life, health, strength, food, clothing, and shelter. We ask for forgiveness. In the name of Oduifa Erosma Tutu. Pounding down without sleep can be very difficult to consume. These were the declarations we found to a tutu, the child of Agbeneregun. He was full of bad character. His bad attitude had prevented him from entering Tifa's domain. Now come to solicit on behalf of the tutu. We've come to beg on behalf of the tutu. Father, please be patient, overlook this provocation. Those who beg on behalf of the tutu. Rumor responded by saying, those who beg on behalf of the tutu. How many children does Ifa have that he would cast them out? Those who beg on behalf of the tutu. Belara, Ifa, please ward off all death, ward off all sickness, ward off cases, controversy, ward off fights, litigation, losses, and our advice from us. Bring to us long life, good spouse, good children, longevity, prosperity, victory over adversity, peace of mind, joy, healing, success, and all the good things of life. Asher. Og Belar. Arumla says it's time to sleep. I echoed it's time to sleep. When the day dawned, I met Arumla in the 16th room, where he covered his head with a flowing gown full of light. He was wearing a dress full of bloodstains. He was snoring heavily. They told him that a delegate from his disciple arrived. Arumla inquired about what the delegate had brought. They told him they brought 2 rats swift from running, 2 fish graceful in swimming, 2 birds swift in flight, and 2 goats with big livers. Arumla said, that's not enough to wake him up. I admit my ignorance. Please educate me. Motunak Araba. I hide myself in your bosom and survive. Motunak Araba. The dog hang masqueraded Visa Agbajan repeatedly. The dog hang masqueraded Visa Agbajan repeatedly to perform rituals because of children. You are the leaders, we are the followers. Leaders are the ones who show the followers wisdom. Arumla told them to get alligator pepper, to get cola nut, to get bitter cola, to get alcohol. Dear Capo got the alligator pepper. He got the cola nut and the bitter cola and the attire. That is right, as now that he is fully awake. Arumla, when you are fully awake, please look at me with your eyes of compassion. It is with eyes of compassion that the heavenly stars usually look at the stars below. Arumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me with your eyes of Chot 1, 2. Secure great wealth. There's such good eyes that the heavenly stars usually look at the stars below. Arumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me with your eyes of Chot 1, 2. Bear many children, and such good eyes a child should use and look at a decorated plate. Be for long, not too far. Join us in the midst of all evil in life. Share. We all ask at this time that you would continue to ward off death, ward off sickness, ward off cases and controversy, ward off fights, ward off litigation, ward off losses, ward off outright fights, ward off witchcraft and negative energies from us. Bring forth to us long life. Give us good spouses, good children, longevity, prosperity, victory over adversity, peace of mind, joy, healing, wealth, 7-figure income, all the good things of life. Bring all of these good things to us at this time. We call on Oshe Aruela, Oshe Tura, Oshe Tura, Oshe Tura. Tani are the feet of Tubu. The stripe of a chameleon is not big enough to use his headgear. Had it been enough to use his headgear, I would have taken it home and adorned my head with it. These we find decorations to Aruela. We're going on a spiritual mission to Jebulan. We call on locusts being sent pay money. Call on salt selling make it rich. We call on Oshe Aruela. Oshe Aruela is a good owl. Oshe Tura. I kick it in Bagisa. The axe strikes sharply against the tree. Can't see fast for a rumor when he used to receive Iba, not share from Molodoma. If in our world tells you should be wealthy, surely be wealthy. I kick it in Bagisa. In the mouth of an owl is Ajibana Shen. In the mouth of an owl. If no one tells you have joy, you surely have joy. I kick it in Bagisa. In the mouth of an owl is Ajibana Shen. In the mouth of an owl. If no one tells you have victory, you surely have victory. I kick it in Bagisa. In the mouth of an owl is Ajibana Shen. In the mouth of an owl. If no one tells you have all the good things of life, you should surely have all the good things of life. I kick it in Bagisa. In the mouth of an owl is Ajibana Shen. In the mouth of an owl. To Essing. Maybe so, surely shall it be. Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Gbogbo tí mo bá màmá wí o, ìrúmọlẹ̀ ó bà. Ifá ó bà o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Bí mo dúró tí mo súre, bí mo bèrè tí mo súre, bí mo kúnlẹ̀ tí mo súre, bí mo jókòó tí mo súre, ire tí mo sùn orí ti bó. Orí ẹni làrúrẹ ìyẹnì o, orí ẹni làrúrẹ ìyẹnì. Mojulo mi fa wa mori, orí ẹni làrúrẹ ìyẹnì. Ashe. Obore chasu. Ifá ó bà lọ́run àti bàṣáájú. Ifá ó bà lọ́run. Oshe Aru Ila Ifá ti bó. Olodumare and the divinities, we thank you for life. Thank you for health. We thank you for strength. We thank you for food, clothing, and shelter. We thank you for all the good things of life that you have provided for us today, Olodumare. We ask that you would continue to ward off all the Ajogun, ward off death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, controversies, ward off fights. litigation, losses, and outright fights, witchcraft, and negative energies from us. Bring forth to us long life, good spouse, good children, peace of mind, joy, healing, victory, and all the good things of life. We thank you, Olodumare. Ashe, we ask that you would move me out of the way, move my ego out of the way, so that we can hear words of Ifa today. Ashe, Emma Kamimene Amo, Emma Kamimene Anu, Emma Kamimene Adoloku, Tamuli, Turi Ifa Lodemi, Evora Timpanimi, Enebanami, Awun Atifa Leledu. Ashe. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us once again. I'm Olu Fakolade of Idin Kaifa Temple, and this is our Ile Juba, which is our temple service. So we welcome you all for tapping in with us. We thank you all for joining us. We thank you all for being in the space with us today. Today is going to be a very interesting topic. The topic or the title is Fatherhood, Faith, and Freedom. Fatherhood, Faith, Freedom. That sounds like a great mantra. Fatherhood, faith, freedom. And what we're talking about is today, of course, is Father's Day. But along with Father's Day, today is also Juneteenth. This is the day when African people here in America who were enslaved, when we finally got the word that we were manumitted from, our ancestors were manumitted from slavery, because the powers that be, the white folks that be, tried to keep it from many of us after the Emancipation Proclamation. So today is a unique day of ownership, and we want to give praise and give thanks particularly for that. All right, so as I said before, today we're talking about fatherhood, and I want to kind of blend this discussion on fatherhood into the discussion of freedom and independence, and blend it into a discussion about liberation, particularly for African people here in the United States and in the diaspora. So I want to make this discussion, this sermon, about all of those things, and much of what all of that is tied into is our faith. It's tied into our connection with the ancestors. It's tied into our connection with God. So I want to chant an Ifa first, and then explain it, and then go into this discussion from there. This comes from Ateila, also known as Irete Yeku. Ifa says, take proper care of your relatives. Those who have siblings, plenty of people, make the market enterprising. He who shares his mind with nobody plays alone. These were Ifa's decorations to Ogongo, the ostrich, the head of all birds in the forest. He was advised to offer a bow. He complied. Ogongo, the father of all birds, you. This is our leader. So I want to begin by talking about an aspect of fatherhood that is rooted in leadership. So when we think about fatherhood, what I want to say is that it, in many respects, a good father should also be a good leader, a good teacher of his children, a good teacher of his family. When we look at that, this verse talks about Ogongo, the ostrich. And when you think about the ostrich, what do you know about the ostrich? What we see, the size, the speed, and this is an interesting bird that has feathers but doesn't fly, but it doesn't necessarily need to fly. Ifa speaks in parables, in metaphors, and this bird is huge, one of the largest birds in the world. And Ifa is saying that this bird is the father of all birds. This bird is the leader of all birds. But deeper than just that, when we talk about fatherhood and leadership, what Ifa is also saying is the ostrich takes care of other birds. So it should not be a bird that is a tyrant. A father should not be a tyrant. A father should be a person who takes care of people. So an essential aspect of leadership that I say is not actualized here in America is the fact that great leaders are great servants. Great leaders know what the people need, know what the family needs, and they are committed to creating ways to assist the family, to assist the people in understanding what their needs are and to assist them in getting their needs met. So when we think about this, Ifa is also saying that the aspect of the ostrich is good character. And essential to leadership is that of good character. You can't be a good leader and merely order people around. You cannot be a good father and merely actualize only the hard side of being a father. You cannot be a father or a good father and merely recognize that you have to be authoritative all the time. An aspect of leadership, an aspect of being a parent is also being nurturing. And that is also what this Ifa is talking about. So when we think of that, we also need to understand that good fathers, good fathers in general also do good things and they lead by example. In the Ifa, Rosun or Worry, Ifa says the person doing Ifa consultation is a backbiter. The one holding the Igbo determinants is an evil perpetrator. And the one looking for the Ebo materials never planned good for the other person. This was Ifa's message for Ladogun. And Awere Megun, when they were both competing for the same title, they were advised to offer Ebo. Only Awere Megun complied. We cannot know that a title belongs to one and still take over the person's father's place for him. This is an interesting Ifa because as we interpret this verse, Ifa is also saying that if an individual has bad character, that bad character will rub off on their children. If they have children, if an individual has good character and honor, if a father has good character and honor, that good character and that honor will rub off on their children. So no one can take the honor or the character even from the person because that is their birthright. So what we're saying here, Ifa is talking about the aspect of leading good examples in order for your children to take your place when you leave that position. And when we think of this, Ifa is also saying that particularly in the blood, as a blood connection, there are things that happen in the blood. What I mean by that, there are ancestral memories, there are experiences, there is knowledge, there's information encased in our DNA, particularly when we're talking about fatherhood from a blood aspect. When we think about this, there are certain attributes that are part of nature, and there are certain attributes that are part of nurture. And when we speak of this, there are aspects of a person's destiny that are indeed their birthright. There are aspects of determination that are ingrained or inculcated in a person's life, in their destiny, as a result of who they came from. So when you think about coming from a legacy of thieves, that child will, if they do not become a thief, that child will bear the mark and even have to pay the price of the father who had bad character. Conversely, if that child is born to a father who has worked very hard, who has done all sorts of things to inculcate good information, and also they've done good deeds, then that child comes in stepping into a legacy of greatness. And as I said before, there's an aspect that is nature and there's an aspect that is nurture, because these blood ties are merely potential. At the end of the day, it is nurturing that teaches someone good choices that will assist them in cultivating the destiny that they should have. So, this Ifa is so powerful because it's telling us that it's your birthright to be great, but you need to be nurtured by a good parent, a good father, to have the destiny which is yours, the greatness which is yours indeed. Ifa says in the Odu Ifa, Odi Ogunda, a knife struck against the head of the fish. There was profuse blood from the back of the crab. These were the Ifa's messages to the awkward man who will inherit the profit of the world. He was advised to offer a bow. He complied. I am the one who will inherit the profits of my father's household. The awkward man is the one who will inherit the profits of this world. I am the one who will inherit the profits of my father's household. So when we think about this, as I said before, there's the aspect of making good choices. And there's an aspect of potential in your DNA. And when we think about this, the awkward man, what Ifa is saying is the awkward man, the man that is off his center, this individual is an individual who is making choices that are actually against his well being. The awkward man chooses perhaps the aspects of the material world, as opposed to the child of good character. That child is one who will inherit the profits of their father's home. That is the child who will inherit the blessings, the greatness of who their father was, who their father is. But with that, the father had to leave something worth inheriting. So when we think of this, it is a good father who leaves aspects of good character and prosperity for their child to inherit. So when we speak of fathers, that too is a powerful, powerful, powerful aspect of what needs to be done. As we go through this process, moving in this world of being fathers, it's an essential aspect to strive to treat the mother of your child correctly. Even if you aren't together, always demonstrate respect. Always demonstrate restraint, even in the midst of anger. And also working together with your child to even listen to that child on a greater level. These are aspects that are of our character that Ifa is saying that we should actualize in order to bring forth the great potential of the destiny of that baby. Ifa says in the Odu Ifa Obara Rosum, it is of it is great confusion. It is serious contention. The war between the wall and the ladder. Both will end up falling on the ground. Ifa's message to Orunmila when he said he will never greet his mother, and he will never greet his father. He was advised to offer a bow. He complied. Now, go and greet mine. A child is going to greet his parent. One's father is the source of one's prosperity. One's mother is the source of one's success. It is the elbow that my parent offered for me, which made me being successful, which made me be successful. Ifa is saying here on so many levels. One, it is not good to have conflicts with your parents. It's not good to have an aspect of time where you are in conflict with your father, where you are not speaking with your father, if you can help it. Ifa is saying here it's better to try to figure out ways to work out that conflict. Because even if the father was not the greatest, there's a certain ashe when you have forgiven that father, or when you are open to the communication with that father, especially if the relationship was not toxic. That when you are open to the communication with that parent, there's a certain esoteric aspect that parents have. And the Odu um, Ogundaleni Ifa says the sheshe of one's mother's lineage, the sheshe of one's father's lineage, the sheshe of the male genital organ, the sheshe of the female genital organ. Those things are esheshe. Those things are traditionalism. Those are the only way we can get here. It is through a man and through a woman. So our fathers are essential. Our mothers are essential, but also our fathers are essential. So with that ashe, what Ifa is saying is if the relationship is too toxic, find some form of reconciliation so that you can heal. Because when you are able to reconcile that relationship, if toxic, if not toxic, reconcile and work with your parent. There's a certain esoteric ashe that your parents give to you. It's a blessing to go to your mom's house, to your father's house, and kneel before them. Your father, your mother, they are your first orishas. So, how is it that we can have all these beautiful shrines, in our households, have Yemaya, have Shango, Oshun, but you don't pay homage to your father? How can we have these shrines and say, oh, Goon, Baba, me, when we are not recognizing and paying homage to our own Baba, me, on this earth plane? It is important. It is important to pay homage to your birth father, your father of blood first. Ifa says that it is through them that Ashe is going to be given, that you will be blessed by giving homage. You will be blessed by the Ashe of your parent. Your parent, in essence, will give you Ashe, energy, and power so that your life will elevate. So Ifa says on the Odu Odigunda also, uh, ding ding guda, ding ding guda. They were the Awo who cast Ifa for Alaran Oyigi, he who cooked extra okra with fish. He was advised to offer a bowl. He complied. Now, Alaran Oyigi, our father is dancing. Our father is celebrating. Ifa is saying here that it is important to do things that are pleasing to our ancestors. It is important to do things that make our Father proud. It is important to do things that make our Father happy. It is important because, as I said before in the previous verse of Odigunda, that is a way that your parents will give you ashe. And I know, I think sometimes when Ifa says these things, sometimes it doesn't resonate with some of us because the level of toxicity in America. But the reality is that we have to forge new ground in many aspects and be great parents. One thing that I can say about my parents, my father, Robert Edmonds, is that the beautiful thing about that relationship, amongst so many other aspects of my relationship with my dad, those of you who know me, is that when I think about him, when I think about myself, is this desire to break negative ancestral norms. When we think about that, without going into too many details of my father's past, we come from legacies of challenge and divorce. But then when you come to my parents, the wonderful, beautiful thing is they've been married at least 56 years now. Thank God. Ashe, it'll be coming up on that on the 25th of this month. And through that process, I have to give praise to my own father for showing me that example, showing me how to work it out in relationships, showing me how to be a good father. And Pops, I salute you. So when we think about those things, we're understanding that in pleasing good parents and pleasing my father, I am blessed. So it doesn't matter what anybody else in the world says or does. He's happy with what I do. He's happy with how I move in the world. And I'm cool with that. And this is partially because we're talking about Father's Day. But in reality, if my parents are happy with the way that I'm moving in the world, when we talk about this aspect of reconciliation and healing and so many things, when we move in a way that makes our parents happy, that's a whole other level of ashe that we're working on and drawing on, folks. Because as I said before, our father, is one of our first Orisha. So moving along that line and moving along the line of discussing freedom and liberation, let's talk about an Odu Ifa called Ogunda Oshe. In this Ifa, I'll tell you the story. So in the Odu Ifa Ogunda Oshe, Ogun was actually commissioned by Oduduwa. And he was commissioned by Oduduwa to be like a mercenary and wage war on a neighboring town. And as Ogun would wage war on this neighboring town, he was commissioned to bring back all the spoils of war to Oduduwa. And in the process of waging this war, Ogun found a woman. And this woman's name was Lakange. And when he saw her, he was immediately attracted to her and he was in love with her. And in that process, Ogun decided that he would take Lakange, who lived in that town, and he would marry her. So Ogun took all the spoils of war to Oduduwa and left them with Oduduwa. And Ogun went home and brought Lakange with him. They had agreed that they would get married. Everything was moving smoothly until one day, Eshu had mentioned something to Oduduwa. He said to Oduduwa, "Do you trust Ogun? Do you trust him?" Oduduwa said, "Yes, why?" Eshu said, "Well, did he bring you everything?" "Yes." "He brought you everything from that war?" "Yes." "What about the woman?" Oduduwa said, What do you mean? What woman? No, I don't know of any woman." And then he was told by Eshu that Ogun actually had a woman that he had brought and housed from that war. And Oduduwa went to Ogun and he said, "You have to give me everything. Everything, everything. Every tool, every person, every jewel. You got to give it all up." And Oduduwa took Lakange into his home and he married Lakange. Unknown to them, Lakange was already pregnant by Ogun. So when she went into the house of Oduduwa, she later gave birth. And as everyone in the community understood, everyone in that household, everyone in the kingdom understood, they said, "Oh, this child is Oduduwa's child. This is Oduduwa's son." But as this boy grew, they realized that he was a giant and he was unique and abnormal. He had tons of athletic ability, a fiery spirit. So they named him Oranloyon because of his height and the size, the sheer size of this child. And as I said before, he was unique. And when Oranloyon grew up, he then was a great warrior. He was a great general. And what he would do is he would go to other towns and colonize them and bring them into the fold of Ife fold of he brought into Oyo, brought all of these towns into the Oduduwa kingdom, the Odua kingdom. And as he did this, he gained a different name. They began to call him Oromiyan. And they said, "Oromiyan, that name means my matter has become a success." So as Oromiyan went, and those of you who know Odua Yoruba history, you know the significance of Oromiyan. And Oromiyan went and he went and colonized and brought other towns and cities into the fold of the union, of the kingdom. And as he did this, his father, Oduduwa, watched him and he said, "This is the one who will take over for me." So what he did is shortly thereafter, Oduduwa left the earth and Oduduwa went back to Orun. And when Oduduwa went back to Orun, he left Oromiyan in charge. He left Oromiyan to be the Oba of the kingdom. And customarily, when the Oba, when in any community where the Oba stands, the Oba will offer a bow. He will offer sacrifices, particularly to his ancestral lineage. And as he offers sacrifices and things like that to his ancestral lineage, what he will also do is pray for the benefit of the kingdom, for the benefit of the community. And this was nothing unusual. This was what Oromion did. And when he would go and propitiate his ancestors, he would go and propitiate the lineage of Oduduwa. He would go and offer sacrifice to Oduduwa. And he did this for years. And over the years, the community began to deteriorate. The kingdom began to go down. So Oromion went to cast Ifa. And as he cast Ifa, he was told, you need to offer sacrifice to the ancestral lineage of your father, to your patriarchal line. And so Oromion said, that's no problem. I do that all the time. Customarily, I'm going to go do that. Oromion did it. Nothing happened. He went customarily, as often as he could. He went and offered sacrifice. He did everything. No matter how often, no matter how extravagant, no matter how dedicated he was to his paternal ancestral lineage of Oduduwa, the condition of the kingdom continued to fall into deeper and deeper peril. In frustration, Oramion went to Castifa again, and he said, what is the problem? I've been feeding the ancestral lineage of my father, and this kingdom just continues to fall into more and more ruin. The Babalao this time said, you must go and consult your mother. So, like, Oromion went to his mother, Lakange. And as he emerged and went to see his mother told him, actually, your father is Ogun. And when I hear that statement, when I think of this story, I think oftentimes of the proverbial statement on these interesting talk shows. Who's your daddy? Who is your father? You are not the father. When you think of these things, and think of the grand level of peril the United States is in, the world is in, with an era of children who don't know their daddy. A generation that grows up without their father. So Oromion had to go and find who his father was. His mother told him it was Ogun. And finally, he was able to pay homage and do the work. And then things came together. What is this Ifa telling us? Ifa is giving us so many messages in this story. One of the messages that Ifa is saying is, number one, we must know who our fathers are. Know who your dad is. Know who your biological blood father is. Even if we are raised with a surrogate father or a stepfather, it cannot take the place of blood in many aspects. Our blood father is important to us because that bloodline will answer questions that cannot be answered by anyone else. That bloodline will tell you the health challenges, the potential spiritual, character, and financial challenges and or blessings that you will inherit. And as I said before, they are merely potential. But it's important to know. It's important to know who your dad is. It is important to know who your father is. Without knowing who your father is, there's a missing piece in your life. In this day and age, when there are so many children who are raised without a father due to the absence of the father or due to various circumstances, we live in a generation where there's a lack of masculine examples, masculine love. And this lack of masculine love leaves a powerful void. I think so many times about the story of Shaka Zulu. And people say, oh, Shaka Zulu was such a great warrior. Part of the reason is Shaka Zulu was raised without his daddy. And yes, he was a powerful warrior, but when we think about the aspect of his warriorship, there was it had to be a specific kind of way because he was up against the British. But when we think about the tactics of war, it was very unique to Africa, and it was a lack of compassion. When we think about this, we think I can see so many young men in our community who are growing up in this community, in this neighborhood where we live in, growing up without their father. And that question that needs to be answered goes unanswered. And it creates a void, and it creates resentment, and it creates toxicity, and it creates pain, it creates trauma. And then we come up with these terms like toxic masculinity. Well, part of the reason for this aspect of toxic masculinity is because of aspects of white supremacy, aspects of times when we think about America and the no man in the house rule due to the welfare system. When we think about African American households being split by slavery. And when we think about all of these things, particularly today on Juneteenth, and we don't even reconcile the pain of the split of the family that happened 400 years ago. When we think about that and we don't address the aspect of our fathers, our brothers were mating with their sisters, their mothers, because of commerce here in America, a trauma that yet is unaddressed, then you cannot identify this masculinity as toxic, because the reality is it's something deeper than just happened yesterday. So when we think of these things, we talk about this story of Oromiyan, but we're reaching deeper into a history that is ours, that we as a group of people have to figure out ways to reconcile. When we think about this, our communities have nurtured on a certain level imbalance. And the essence feeds a diseased behavior, and oftentimes, due to the lack of love and presence of fathers. I say once again, know your father. Know who your father is. Seek him out. If it is too toxic, get to know him from afar, but get to know the lineage. Pay homage to that aspect of Isheshe, that lineage that brought you here. If you talk about, oh, I'm a Sheshe, fatherhood is Isheshe. Second, this verse of Ifa, this story of Ifa, is telling us that all religion is really ancestor veneration. So imagine if our ancestors have a vested interest in our survival and in our ability to prevail, which they do. Now, imagine that. Now imagine if we are worshiping the ancestors of those who desire our destruction. Just take a moment and ponder that. Just as Oromiyan was unable to succeed as long as he worshiped in ignorance, he was unable to succeed as long as He didn't know, and this level of ignorance brought him no progress. It was not until he came into the true knowledge of himself, into the true knowledge of who he is, that Oromion himself was able to succeed. When you think about that, particularly today on Juneteenth, whose ancestors are we worshiping? Whose ancestors are we paying homage to? Whose traditions have we embraced? And we must analyze, are these traditions beneficial to us? I'm reminded by a statement by Dr. John Henry Clarke, rest in peace. Dr. John Henry Clarke said, I'm paraphrasing, if your religion has nothing to do to support your liberation, you must throw it out. And I'll just leave that right there. Freedom on Juneteenth, on the day our ancestors learned their freedom in Texas when white folks tried to hide it from us. Deeper than this, on this Juneteenth, on this Father's Day, let us analyze and worship at the feet of our own God, at the feet of our own ancestors. Let us not utter the name of another colonized deity to embrace the disease culture that shapes this nation. Let us forge a healed, holistic, African perspective of fatherhood, faith, as we stand in our freedom. Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe. I pray that this message reaches all of us in a good place, because that's like when we talk about a lot of these things, interestingly enough, it's painful. When we talk about even the commodification of Juneteenth, it's powerful and it's deep, but sadly, it comes without a discussion. Comes without a discussion of reparations. It comes without a discussion of the fact that many African folks who practice Ifa, who practice an African tradition, do so because we're reclaiming a history that was in essence stolen from us, and in essence it was against the law for us to do. It was against the law for us to be literate. It was against the law. It was against the law for us to have quote unquote legitimized marriages. It was against the law. So as an Ifa practitioner, it behooves us not to talk about this today. We are African people. All of us. Our origins are from the mother continent. And as one of my great elders, Elder Joshua von Wolfok, rest in peace, he never called Africa the motherland. He called Africa the fatherland. So in the spirit of that great father and that great fatherhood, I remember Elder Joshua von Wolfok from San Diego. He brought his I believe it was his grandsons or nephews with him. I believe it was to Nigeria, and I went to elementary school. Those of you who listening from San Diego, respect my brother Darian Alyuda, Darian Muhammad, respect brother. That was one of his children, and I was in elementary school, and they brought videos in and showed us how he brought his youths with him to Nigeria, to Africa. Powerful. But I'm mentioning that to say on so many levels, we need to really, really, really rethink our ideas of manhood and masculinity, rethink our ideas of fatherhood, particularly in this nation by the Eurocentric standards, and really analyze them from African centered standards. So, with that, I thank you. Um, I want to make a couple of announcements. So, those of you who enjoy what we're doing here at Idinka, you can definitely look out. You can definitely support what we're doing, and we appreciate that. So, please do. Along with that, every week we do an IFA class. So, in the next 4 weeks, I'm doing lectures structured around surviving the year 2022 and beyond. As IFA followers, I'm focusing on sustainability, spirituality, self-defense, and sound health. So those of you who are interested, each week we're going to focus on a different thing associated with Odu Ifa and practical application. So if you are interested, you can register online. But we're going to be delving deeply into those things in the coming weeks every Friday. So we're thinking of practical application of Ifa to our people here in the United States. So that will be on June 24th. Also on June 23rd, we're having I have a men's group. We meet once a month, usually on the third or fourth Thursday of the month, and we do that to cultivate what we're talking about today. So we don't just talk about it; we be about it, we act on it, and so that is called the Makings of Men. So I'll be coming out with the flyer this week. Those of you who are interested, please tap in. Please tap in. We need good people. We need good men to support our communities. And also, Chief Popola, my Oluo, he'll be coming to United States. He'll be doing a tour in Latin America and the United States in by the end of this month. So I believe he'll be here in LA from June 30th to July 3rd. Those of you who are interested in casting Ifa, you can contact myself or contact Olunla Irawu Ifa. The phone number will be on the flyer for that. So if you don't know about it, you can tap in there. And if you're interested in Dafa, if you're interested in Itefa, please contact us now so that we can get everything organized for that. He'll be here for, like I said, from the 30th until the 3rd of July. And then he'll go to, I believe, Mexico and probably spend the entire month of July in Mexico and then go to Puerto Rico. Those of you who are interested, come tap in with us. We'll be doing Etefas, we'll be doing Ifa divinations and giving Orisha shrines. So if you're interested in that information, come join us. And once again, thank you all for tapping in with us this Sunday. This to me, this was like a really, really, really important discussion that we as a family needed to have. So I hope that everyone benefited greatly. So before I close, why don't we pray? Olodumare, we thank you, Almighty God, for your blessings. We thank you for your support. We thank you for your help. We thank you for aiding us in understanding how essential fatherhood is and help us to embrace positive, good fathers once more so that the good ones can outweigh the negative. Help us to not even mention anything about negative. Help us to be shining examples of what men should be within our community, within our world. Help us to transform and change the world and breed liberation. Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Aboto. Thank y'all so much for tapping in with us today. We appreciate you. Shout outs to those on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Clubhouse. Thank you all so much for joining us. Much love, much love, much love, much love. All right. All right. Have a good one, folks. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, all the brothers out there, all the sisters. We thank you all for your support, sisters. Thank you all once again for joining us today.